There is a quiet rhythm to life, a sacred pulse beneath the chaos, beneath the noise. It moves through the tides, the turning of seasons, the breath between thoughts. And within us, too, it stirs softly, wisely, through the intricate currents of our hormones, the messengers of our becoming. They do not simply regulate, they whisper the language of our soul's design, shaping how we feel, how we rise, how we return to ourselves. When the body falls out of rhythm, it is not failure, it is invitation, an ancient call to listen. To remember that imbalance is not the end, but a sacred rest note in the symphony of healing. We are not broken, we are becoming. Every symptom, every mood, every silence is a part of that becoming. So tonight, we do not fix, we listen. And in that listening, we begin to align with the truth we've always known. You are not separate from the universe. You are its most intimate expression. Let's take a moment and step back from the noise, the lists, the symptoms, the endless advice that tells us we're not doing enough, not feeling the right way, not keeping up. And let's ask a deeper question. What if your body isn't failing you? What if it's actually communicating with breathtaking precision? See, we've been taught to look at hormones like mechanical levers. Something goes wrong, we pull a switch. Low energy, fix it. Mood swings, patch it. Irregular cycles, medicate it. The unspoken message underneath all of this is that your body is chaotic, unpredictable, flawed, that it needs to be controlled. But here's what most people never stop to realize. Your hormones aren't random. They're rhythmic. They are not rules you're supposed to obey. They're music you're meant to feel. Every hormone in your body moves like part of a larger dance. Estrogen rises like spring, lifting energy, sharpening focus, giving you that light, forward-moving push. Then progesterone comes in like autumn, softer, quieter, calling you inward, asking you to slow down, to feel more deeply. And when these waves shift, so does your mood, your motivation, your energy. That's not dysfunction. That's design. There is no part of your hormonal cycle that's accidental. It is one of the most intelligent systems on the planet, but we live in a world that rewards linearity, same pace, same productivity, same emotional tone every day. That's not how your body was made. You are not a straight line. You are a cycle. You are fluid. You are changing on purpose. Think about that. We celebrate nature for its seasons. We stand in awe of how the moon pulls on the tides. But when our own inner tides shift, when we feel off, heavy, emotional, we label it a problem. We try to suppress it, power through it, ignore it. But maybe, just maybe, what you feel in those moments isn't a problem to fix. Maybe it's an invitation. Maybe when your energy crashes or your mood dips or your body holds on to weight, it's not punishment. It's your body waving a flag saying, hey, something's out of tune. Come back to me. Come listen. You don't need to fight your body to feel good. You need to understand it. You need to witness it as wise. Because when you finally stop resisting your rhythm and you begin to live in sync with it, not just biologically, but emotionally, spiritually, everything starts to change. You'll notice the moments where you're naturally more social, creative, bold. And you'll begin to honor the phases where rest isn't laziness, it's leadership, where boundaries come more easily, where clarity sharpens, because your hormones aren't just about reproduction or PMS or hot flashes. They're your internal compass. They shape your thoughts, your resilience, your capacity to feel, to give, to receive. This is the turning point. This is where healing starts, not when you finally get your hormones a perfect, but when you stop treating them like something outside of you and start hearing them as the deeper voice within you. You begin to track the patterns. You start noticing how your body responds to certain foods, to stress, to sleep, to movement. You learn when to lean in and when to let go. And instead of feeling like you're on a hormonal roller coaster, you start feeling the flow of something ancient and beautiful guiding you home. It's not about control. It's about rhythm. It's not about getting back to who you were. It's about remembering who you are. And look, this doesn't mean every day is going to feel magical. Some days your hormones will feel like a tangled mess. That's life. But the difference is now you're not afraid of it. You're not ashamed of it. You're not making yourself wrong for something that's perfectly right. So here's what I want you to hear loud and clear. There is nothing wrong with you for feeling deeply, for needing rest, for being sensitive to the world. That sensitivity is intelligence. That rhythm is sacred. And your hormones, they're not a curse to manage. They are your body's most honest truth. Learn the rhythm and you'll never need to fight yourself again. Let's talk about mood. Not the surface level version, the smile for the camera kind of mood. I'm talking about the kind of emotion that creeps in before you even open your eyes in the morning. That heaviness in your chest, the brain fog that won't lift, the irritation that flares out of nowhere, or that quiet, sinking feeling that something's off, but you can't quite name it. Most of us have been taught to see those moments as problems. Bad moods, mood swings, emotional instability. We're told to push through, to calm down, to be more positive. We apologize for our feelings, hide our tears in bathroom stalls, and label ourselves as dramatic when we're just being honest. But let me tell you something you might not hear enough. Your mood is not a mistake. It's a messenger. It's your body's way of waving the flag and saying, hey, attention, something's out of alignment. And here's where science gets beautiful. Your mood isn't separate from your biology. It's intimately connected to your hormones. Estrogen, for instance, isn't just about fertility. It also influences serotonin, your feel-good neurotransmitter. Progesterone is calming, soothing. It can bring a sense of peace, or when it drops, it can trigger anxiety. Cortisol, your stress hormone, when too high for too long, doesn't just exhaust your body. It clouds your thinking, affects your memory, and alters your emotional stability. These aren't abstract facts. This is your life experience. This is why some days you wake up and feel on fire, focused, motivated, clear, and others. You feel like a foggy, weepy stranger in your own skin. It's not that you're crazy. It's not that you're broken. It's that your hormones are talking. But we weren't taught to listen, were we? We were taught to override, to silence, to hustle harder, put on a good face, and get through it. And what that does over time is disconnect us from ourselves. We stop trusting our own emotional guidance system. We label our feelings as inconvenient, unpredictable, even shameful. And yet, what if your mood swings are not a sign that something's wrong with you, but a sign that your body is calling for change? Maybe that irritability is a signal that your stress response is overloaded and your nervous system is begging for stillness. Maybe that sadness isn't weakness. It's your hormones reflecting unmet needs, unresolved emotions, or exhaustion that runs deeper than sleep can fix. See, when we reframe the mood as a messenger, not something to fix, but something to hear, we create space for healing. And this is where the deeper work begins. Start by tracking your moods across your cycle, not to micromanage yourself, but to witness patterns. When does the heaviness hit? When do you feel most clear, most social, most inward, most agitated? And when you start to line up your moods with your hormonal shifts, things start to click. You stop blaming yourself for being off. You stop making your emotional waves wrong. You start seeing them for what they are, truth tellers, guides. And what happens next is powerful. You begin to respond to your body with compassion instead of control. Instead of fighting through anxiety, you support your adrenals. Instead of numbing sadness, you nourish yourself, literally with food and emotionally with grace. You start working with your mood instead of against it. Because here's the truth most people miss. Your emotions are not separate from your biology. They are biology. You're not unstable. You're incredibly attuned. You're not weak for crying. You're not irrational for feeling deeply. And in fact, your mood is often the first sign that your body needs attention, long before labs or symptoms ever show up. It's your internal forecast, your weather system, your emotional compass, and it deserves your respect, not your shame. This is how healing becomes possible, not when you force yourself to feel better, but when you allow yourself to feel, period. You don't need to be cheerful every day to be healthy. You don't need to fake motivation to be successful. Real wellness begins when we stop performing and start listening. When we realize that the low days, the heavy days, the tired days, they aren't detours, they're part of the path. And the more you allow your mood to be a signal, not an obstacle, the faster you find your way back to balance. Because the body is wise, and it's always trying to bring you back into harmony. So the next time your mood dips, don't panic. Don't shut down. Get curious. Ask what your body is trying to say. Because when you stop running from your feelings and start running toward them, you don't just heal your hormones. You come home to yourself, and here's the bottom line. Your mood is not the problem. Ignoring it is. Let's be honest. Most of us were never taught how our bodies actually work. Especially when it comes to hormones, it's like we were handed this mystery box with a sticker that says, a complicated, emotional. Just deal with it. You probably learned more about how to avoid pregnancy than you ever did about your own cycle. And even then, it wasn't education. It was fear-based management. Don't get pregnant. Don't be too emotional. Don't be too tired. Don't complain. And whatever you do, don't talk about your period. But here's the thing. When you finally start understanding your hormones, it's like someone turns the lights on in a room you've been living in your whole life. You start realizing that what felt random, those energy crashes, mood dips, food cravings, bursts of clarity, emotional waves, they're not random at all. They're patterned, they're predictable, they're scientific. Your body has seasons. You are not meant to feel the same every single day. And that's not a flaw. That's biology. That's intelligence. Let's break it down in a way that's empowering, not overwhelming. Your hormonal cycle is typically about 28 days. Within that time, your hormones shift through 4 main phases. Think of them like inner seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Each one has a different energetic signature. Each one carries its own purpose. During the follicular phase, what I like to call your inner spring, estrogen rises. This is the time when your energy is building. Your brain lights up with new ideas, and you feel more optimistic, social driven. Then comes ovulation, your inner summer, when estrogen peaks, and you often feel your most magnetic, outward, powerful. This is a beautiful time for collaboration, communication, being seen. Then progesterone steps in, your inner autumn. Things begin to slow. You start to turn inward. This is when your body is preparing to either support a potential pregnancy or reset. It's a time for discernment, for grounding, for paying attention to what's working and what isn't. And finally, if there's no pregnancy, both estrogen and progesterone drop. You enter your inner winter, menstruation. This is your reset. This is not just the shedding of a physical lining. It's an emotional and energetic release, a moment where your body is asking you to rest, to reflect, to renew. This cycle repeats every month. It's not just about fertility. It's about flow, about creativity, about power. But here's the problem. We live in a world built around male biology, a 24-hour hormonal cycle that resets daily. We praise consistency, hustle, linear output, and when your body doesn't match that rhythm, it's easy to feel like you're failing. Like you're lazy one week, overly emotional the next. But you're not. You're syncing with a different clock. When you understand that, everything changes. You stop expecting yourself to be in a summer mode all month long. You start planning your life with your cycle, not in spite of it. You schedule the brainstorm during your follicular phase. You deliver the presentation when you're ovulating. You set boundaries and evaluate your priorities in your luteal phase. And during menstruation, you rest, you reflect, you recharge. And here's the science behind that wisdom. Your brain actually changes throughout your cycle. MRI studies show that different parts of the brain become more active depending on where you are hormonally. Your communication centers light up around ovulation. Your emotional processing deepens in the luteal phase. Your problem solving sharpens during your period. Your period. That's not a liability. That's a superpower. When you know your cycle, you start showing up for yourself in the way your body needs. You eat differently. You train differently. You manage stress differently. And this isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. It's about recognizing that your body has been trying to lead you all along. You just didn't have the language to listen. Until now. This is the part where things get personal, because once you start tracking not just your period, but your energy, your cravings, your thoughts, you start building a relationship with yourself. You start seeing your cycle as a map, a guide, not something to dread, but something to trust. And listen, this doesn't mean you have to live your life like a hormonal spreadsheet. This isn't about rigid biohacking or obsessive tracking. It's about awareness. It's about knowing, oh, this week I'm more sensitive. I need more sleep, more space, fewer social commitments. Or I'm in my high energy window. This is the time to create, to speak up, to stretch. When you live in sync with your body, life gets smoother. You're not fighting your biology. You're flowing with it. You're honoring your design. And what you'll realize is this: the more you understand your body, the less you criticize it. The more you trust your rhythm, the less you fear your fluctuations. This is the science. This is the sacred. This is how you come back to yourself, not by controlling everything, but by aligning with the wisdom that's been there all along. So here's the truth. Knowing your cycle is not just self-care, it's self-respect. Let's talk about this idea of a reset. We throw that word around all the time, right? Reset your body. Reset your hormones, reset your mindset. And usually what we think it means is, let's get back to who I used to be. Let's rewind the tape. Let's fix what got broken. But the truth is, a real reset isn't about going back. It's about going deeper. It's not about returning to an old version of yourself. It's about stepping into a truer one that maybe you haven't even met yet. And I know that sounds big, maybe even a little scary. Gee. But stay with me here. When your hormones feel off, when your body feels tired, when your moods are swinging like a pendulum, the natural instinct is to try to get back on track. And sometimes we reach for quick fixes, supplements, detoxes, workouts, new routines, thinking if we just do more, we'll feel better. Pop. But what if feeling off isn't something to fix? What if it's something to follow? Your body is always speaking to you. Through fatigue, through cravings, through brain fog, through the moments when you don't feel like yourself. And when those signals show up, they're not asking you to go back to some earlier version of you who had it together. They're asking you to pay attention to what's no longer working, even if it used to. See, hormonal imbalance isn't failure, it's feedback. It's your body saying, hey, the way you've been living, it's no longer in alignment with who you're becoming, and that's not a bad thing. That's wisdom. Because healing doesn't happen in reverse. It happens when you move forward, but differently. More intentionally, more in sync with your biology, more in tune with what your nervous system, your cycle, your spirit actually need. Here's where the science comes in. When your body is stressed, chronically stressed, your cortisol rises, your digestion slows down, your sleep gets lighter, your blood sugar gets spikier. Your hormones start whispering, then shouting, then crashing. And if you ignore that long enough, your entire system becomes inflamed and exhausted. But a reset isn't about hustling harder to undo all of that. It's about interrupting the pattern. It's about creating space for the body to shift out of survival mode and back into balance. And that doesn't happen through force. It happens through trust. Trusting your body enough to slow down. Trusting that rest is not weakness. Trusting that nourishment, real nourishment, not restriction, is medicine. Trusting that you don't have to be at war with your hormones to heal them. We've been conditioned to believe that health is about control. Control your food, control your weight, control your feelings. But real health, real healing is about cooperation. It's about listening to your body like it's your best friend, not your enemy. When you choose to reset, you're not pressing a pause on life. You're pressing a play on a different rhythm, a gentler one, a wiser one. You're saying, I'm no longer available for burnout. I'm no longer subscribing to this idea that my worth is tied to how much I produce. I'm rebuilding my health from a place of respect, not punishment. And this is where things begin to shift, not just physically, but emotionally. When you stop resisting the slowdown, when you stop seeing fatigue as a flaw and start seeing it as sacred, something opens up. You realize that the version of you has been holding it all together, pushing through the symptoms, pretending everything's fine, That version is exhausted. And she deserves better. Resetting your hormones isn't about chasing perfection. It's about returning to presence, getting curious about how you feel, learning how food affects your mood, how sleep influences your resilience, how boundaries protect your energy, and then making tiny, consistent shifts that honor the body you're in right now, not the one you wish you had. This process, it's not linear. Some days you'll feel like you're moving forward. Other days, it'll feel like you're going backwards. But if you're paying attention, if you're showing up with kindness and awareness, you're not going backward at all. You're evolving. And yeah, maybe there's grief in that. Grief for the energy you used to have. Grief for the way your body used to respond. But there's also freedom. Because the reset doesn't take you back. It takes you home to a body that is wiser, more self-aware, and more aligned than ever. You don't have to return to who you were. You get to rise as who you are. That's what this is about. This is not about fixing. It's about becoming. And your body already knows the way. All you have to do is stop running from the signals and start responding with love. Because healing begins the moment you stop asking, get back, and start asking, who am I meant to become next? Let's get something straight right now. Balance isn't what you think it is. We've been sold this picture of balance as some perfect, peaceful, color-coded moment where everything in your life is in harmony. You're eating clean, sleeping 8 hours, crushing your to-do list, feeling happy, energized, and calm all the time. Like some magical destination you reach and then stay in forever, if you just try hard enough. But that's not real. That's a fantasy. And honestly, it's a trap. Because the truth is, balance isn't a static place, it's a dynamic state. It's not a finish line, it's a practice. And it's constantly shifting, just like your hormones, just like your life. Your body wasn't designed for perfection. It was designed for adaptation, for rhythm, for movement. So if you're chasing this idea of always feeling good, as being on, or staying in one emotional gear, you're not chasing balance, you're chasing burnout. Let me ask you this. When your body tells you it's tired, do you listen or do you push through because there's still work to do? When your mood drops and everything feels heavy, do you pause and get curious? Or do you shame yourself into pretending it's fine? Because real balance doesn't come from ignoring yourself. It comes from noticing, from having the awareness and courage to pivot, to make small adjustments in the moment. Whether that's taking a nap instead of another workout, saying enums instead of saying yes, just to be liked, or choosing a nourishing meal over numbing with sugar and caffeine because your hormones are begging for stability, not stimulation. So, this kind of balance, it's not glamorous, it's quiet. It's you, tuning in day after day, asking, what do I need today? What would feel like support? What can I release instead of constantly adding more? And it doesn't always look the same. Sometimes balance looks like a green smoothie. Sometimes it looks like skipping the gym and crying in your car. Sometimes it looks like standing in your power. Other times it looks like falling apart and knowing that's okay. Because hormonal balance, true balance, isn't about never experiencing symptoms. It's about learning how to respond to them with wisdom instead of reacting with fear or frustration. Let's go deeper with this. Your hormones are constantly in flux. Every day, your internal chemistry is adjusting to stress, sleep, food, relationships, thoughts. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol, insulin, they're all in conversation. And sometimes they get out of sync. Not because you failed, but because life is unpredictable. Maybe your cortisol's high because you're dealing with a toxic work environment or carrying the weight of emotional labor at home. Maybe your insulin is off because you've been skipping meals, running on coffee, and calling it discipline. Maybe your progesterone is low because your body's been in survival mode for so long, it forgot what safety feels like. This is where balance becomes a process of realignment, not perfection. And that means checking in with your body regularly. You would with a friend. You don't just talk to your friend once a year and expect the relationship to be strong, right? You check in, you notice, you ask how they're doing, you listen. Your body deserves that same level of respect. And when you build that relationship, when you make space for those daily check-ins, you start to catch imbalances sooner. You stop spiraling into depletion. You become your own best advocate. You realize that you don't have to wait until everything falls apart before you course correct. That's power. That's partnership. That's what balance actually is. And here's something else no one talks about. Balance includes the imbalance, the off days, the hard weeks, the moments when nothing makes sense. Because those moments teach you what matters. They show you where you're stretching too thin, where you're abandoning yourself, where you need more care. And maybe even more important, they remind you that you're human. So stop trying to be even all the time. You're not meant to be neutral. You're meant to feel, to move, to adjust. To move. Like a dancer keeping pace with the music. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, always attuned. This is how you create hormonal balance, emotional resilience, and long-term health. Not by locking yourself into a rigid routine and calling it discipline, but by cultivating the flexibility to meet yourself exactly where you are and make small, meaningful choices that bring you back into harmony. Because balance isn't found in control. It's found in connection. And here's the truth you need to walk away with. Real balance isn't about doing everything right. It's about knowing when to pause, when to pivot, and when to breathe. There's a moment on this journey after you've started listening to your body, after you've tracked your cycle, after you've sat in the discomfort of your mood swings and leaned into the quiet pull to reset when something shifts. You stop looking outside of yourself for every answer. You stop hoping someone will come along and hand you the one perfect solution that will fix everything. You start to realize the person you've been waiting for, it's you. That's the moment you become the alchemist of your healing. Now, I know that word, alchemist, might sound a little mystical, but I want you to really think about what alchemy means. It's the transformation of something ordinary into something powerful. It's the process of turning what feels heavy, messy, or even broken into something whole, strong, and purposeful. That's what this work is. That's what this journey through your hormones, your moods, your biology, your rhythm is really about. It's not about fixing flaws. It's about transformation. It's about taking the raw, honest, sometimes chaotic signals your body sends you and turning them into insight, into action, into healing. And here's the truth that no one told you in health class. Your body isn't just something to manage. It's something to partner with. It holds ancient intelligence. It knows how to heal. It knows how to return to balance if you give it the right support and stop getting in its way. But that support, that doesn't come from some magic product or one-size-fits-all protocol. It comes from awareness, from learning to read your own signals, from experimenting, from showing up again and again with curiosity and compassion instead of criticism. You don't need to be a doctor to understand your hormones. You don't need to have it all figured out to start changing your life. What you do need is the willingness to engage, to stop outsourcing your intuition and start owning your power. Because here's what happens when you take ownership of your body. You stop saying, I don't know what's wrong with me, and start saying, I know how to listen. You stop thinking, I guess this is just how it is after 30 or 40 or 50, and start realizing, this is not my baseline. I can feel better than this. You stop waiting for permission, and you start making empowered choices that support your energy, your mood, your cycle, your joy. That's alchemy. Fabi, it's realizing that your symptoms aren't your enemy. They're your GPS. And every time you tune in instead of tuning out, every time you get curious instead of critical, you're rewriting your story. You're not just reacting to your hormones anymore. You're creating with them. You're using food as fuel, not punishment. You're moving your body, not because you hate it, but because you love how it feels to be in sync. You're setting boundaries that preserve your energy, saying no to what drains you, and saying yes to what brings you back into alignment. You're choosing rest without guilt. You're owning your rhythms, your highs, your lows, and trusting the process even when it's not linear. Because healing rarely is. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no dramatic moment where everything suddenly clicks. It's subtle. It's steady. It's you, showing up on the days when it's hard. Recommitting on the days when you feel off. Listening deeper when things don't go as planned. And the more you do that, the more you trust your ability to course correct, to experiment, to respond with wisdom, the more confident you become in your own skin. But because you know how to lead yourself through it, that's what no one tells you. You don't need to wait until you feel amazing to start showing up differently. You show up now, exactly as you are. You stop trying to be the perfect version of yourself, and instead, you become the present version of yourself. The one who listens, the one who learns, the one who transforms. Because when you realize that you have the tools, the intuition, and the resilience to take care of your body in a way that actually works for you, not for Instagram, not for someone else's idea of wellness, you stop feeling like a victim of your hormones. You start feeling like the author of your life. And that's where real healing begins. Not with control, not with striving, but with ownership. So let me leave you with this. You are not here to be rescued. You are here to remember your power and rise.